Welcome to History Stories Dose, one story 10 parts, subscribe now.
When we think of Henry VIII, the pop culture caricature is immediate. We picture a massive tyrant, defined primarily by his appetite for excess, his rotating cast of doomed wives, and his reliance on the executioner's block. Yet scholars examining his reign remain bitterly divided. While half point to the destruction he caused, the other half argue he was the most effective and brilliant monarch to ever rule England. In his early years, he was young, athletic, and highly educated. He poured resources into a nascent fleet, establishing the roots of a powerful navy, and he heavily patronized art and new scholarship, bringing the Renaissance directly into the English court. But those achievements sit alongside a grim reality. He ruled through profound political fear, ordering the executions of thousands of subjects and plunging the nation into religious terror. His hands were stained with the blood of his closest allies. To make sense of this divide, we have to look past the standard ledger of his naval victories and severed heads. Every decision he made traces back to a single, all-consuming obsession. Henry was terrified of a succession crisis. The Tudor dynasty was new, forged in the blood of recent civil wars, and he believed that without a healthy male heir, his family's fragile grip on the throne would collapse. Looking at this Tudor family tree, you can see the immediate human cost of his desperation. Over the course of his reign, he married 6 women, legally discarding 2 of them through divorce when they failed to provide the boy he required. When divorce proved insufficient, he turned to execution. 2 of his queens, Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard, were beheaded right here within the stone walls of the Tower of London. The paranoid purge did not stop with his marriages. Anyone who hesitated to support his demands became a target, resulting in the executions of his most loyal and brilliant advisors, like Thomas More and Thomas Cromwell. The celebrated Renaissance prince had vanished. In his place stood a ruler willing to destroy human lives and discard his own morality simply to secure his personal legacy. When the Pope refused his first annulment, Henry completely severed England's ancient ties with the Roman Catholic Church. By declaring himself supreme head of the Church of England, he rerouted centuries of religious authority and vast wealth directly into his crown, centralizing immense power. This rupture isolated England from its Catholic neighbors and triggered mass suffering at home. Monasteries were dismantled, and thousands of dissenters who resisted the new order were crushed. Now completely alone and surrounded by potential enemies on the continent, the island needed a defense. Henry was forced to heavily militarize his coastline and invest deeply in the infrastructure of the English Navy. He dismantled centuries of established political and religious order simply to serve his personal obsession. Yet by doing so, he accidentally built the bureaucratic and military machinery of a centralized, independent state. After decades of bloodshed, Henry finally secured his male heir, Edward VI. But the victory was entirely hollow. Edward ruled for only a few years before dying young, rendering Henry's violent sacrifices practically useless for securing the Tudor line. The throne eventually fell to the one person Henry had written off entirely, his daughter, Elizabeth I, a child he had once viewed as a profound disappointment. Elizabeth inherited the exact tools her father had built in his manic state. She leveraged his centralized crown authority, his independent church, and his naval fleets to crush the massive Spanish Armada and expand English influence across the globe. Henry spent decades tearing his kingdom apart to find the perfect son. Yet it was the daughter he cast aside, who used the pieces of that fractured kingdom to defeat the world's largest empire and establish England's naval supremacy for centuries. Today, millions walk through Henry's palaces, remembering a reign stained by religious conflict and broken families. Yet they stand inside a nation he left wealthier and more heavily fortified than the one he inherited. That is why historians will likely never agree on a single verdict, forever debating whether he was England's greatest king or its most dangerous tyrant. Regardless of moral judgment, Henry broke the medieval status quo so thoroughly that the English state could never return to what it was before his reign. History rarely offers clean answers. Instead, it shows us how one person's darkest, most selfish obsessions can accidentally draft the blueprint of a global power.